Hi guys. So if you're watching this, then that means that you have actually paid attention to the directions. And we're going to be doing our Hamlet class notes, or at least part of them. So what that means in this particular case, okay, goodness. So what that means in this particular case is that we're going to be going over Act 1, all the scenes, and Act 2, which is only 2 scenes. So that'll get us caught up to where we are as far as actually doing the play in class. And on an even better note, that means that we'll be ready to move on from there. So let's get started. All right. So we are Act 1, Scene 1. 99% of the time, just assume that we are in Elsinore. Elsinore Castle, Denmark. The majority of the scenes, also we have a couple that are out in the middle of nowhere, otherwise known as plains in Denmark. We also have a couple of scenes that are in Polonius's house or in specific rooms like the Queen's room, that sort of thing. But for right now, we're just outside the castle in Denmark. So, Horatio, and as far as the notes go, he will be referred to as Ho. Marcellus, who will be referred to as Ma. Francisco, who will be referred to as Fran, and Bernardo, Barn, are basically guarding the castle at night. Francisco is going to bed, and Bernardo stays. He's joined by Marcellus, who is another guard, and Horatio, who is a friend of the prince, otherwise known as Young Hamlet or Prince Hamlet. In our notes, he'll just show up as Ham, but I will say the full names out loud. Okay, so as we know, Bernardo and Marcellus first tell Horatio that there's a ghost. And he's like, yeah, right. I'll believe it when I see it. So they're like, okay, you want to freeze your butt out outside to see the spooky ghost? Fine. We can all go outside, freeze our butts off, and you can see the spooky ghost. And while they're having that discussion, the ghost appears and then disappears because, it's a ghost. It can do that. And all of them are like, holy crap, it's actually a ghost. How do we fight that? Can we stab it? Will it go away? Can it stab us? And then all of a sudden, it occurs to them, the ghost looks kind of like dead King Hamlet. The father of the prince who's named after his dad, and his name is also Hamlet. And even more suspiciously, he's dressed for war. That's a little odd. Shouldn't he be somewhere, resting in peace and all of that happy stuff? Actually, now that they think about it, he kind of specifically looks like the last time that he went to war to protect Denmark from Norway. Do you think he came back from the grave as a warning? And Horatio's like, well, the whole patrol purpose why we're freezing their butts out here in the first place is to watch out for the young Prince Fortinbras from Norway, who is bringing an army of basically mercenaries because, as far as his uncle, who is the king of Norway, is concerned, we're at peace. But, dear old Uncle Norway is sick and doesn't probably know what his nephew's up to. And unofficial army can still stab you just as efficiently as official army. So they start asking the ghost some questions, and for the most part, it just ignores them. And then finally, it gets sick of their crap, and he's like, turns around, opens his mouth, and then the rooster crows. And in case none of you have ever been around chickens, that usually means that daylight is coming. And ye old Shakespeare superstition, daytime means that ghosts, witches, curses, evil, all that stuff disappears until, the next night when it all repopulates on its own. So Horatio and Marcellus were like, holy crap, the prince needs to know that his dead dad is back and he's wandering around haunting the castle, and we might be going to war again. Besides, if he won't talk to us, maybe he wants to talk to his one and only precious son. Plus, Horatio is Hamlet's best friend, and they're kind of feeling like the new king, Claudius, is kind of suspect. He's a little sketchy. Don't really trust him much. So, Act 1, Scene 2. The setting is a stateroom in Elsinore Castle. So, big fancy room and big fancy castle. We have King Claudius, who will be known in the notes as KC, Queen Gertrude, QG, Prince Hamlet, Ham. I'm just going to say Claudius, Gertrude, and Hamlet because it's a lot easier to say. But as you can see on the screen, I have it marked the other way because it's easier to write the other way. Okay, moving on. So Claudius shows up and he gives a long speech with some very curious lines. Something about how the country needs to balance the happy times with the sad times. We should be happy because, hey, the queen just got married, and by the way, it's to me. But we should also be sad because my brother's dead, and that's why I'm the king now. So take a minute, be sad, now get over it. Now, like I told you before, that's kind of against the traditions at the time because the queen was supposed to spend a certain set time in mourning, and to not do that makes her really suspicious to the people anyway. And there's a very small number of royal people and a very large number of poor people. So if enough poor people get upset, there's a possibility of an overthrow there. So anyway, Claudius married Gertrude, his brother's widow. Didn't wait very long to make a move there, by the way. Since she was the queen, that makes him the new king of Denmark. If your name is Claudius, you are very happy about this. If your name is Hamlet, like your dead dad, you are not happy about this. And then in his speech, she's like, oh yeah, by the way, I kind of got some death threats from Fortinbras, that young prince of Norway, but don't worry too much about it. Something about how if I don't return the land claimed by the dead king, that Norway's gonna go to war with us, but he's just the prince. There's nothing to be concerned about. And he's like, yo, Cornelius, Boltman, get your butts over here. Take this very important letter with my seal on it to old King Norway. It tells him what his nephew's up to and that he needs to get a handle on it, or else. Okay. And then he's like, okay, now we took care of old business. Now it's time for new business. I'm the king now, so anybody want any favors? Yes, no, maybe. And, as the king, Claudius has a bunch of new powers now. And that includes the ability to say yes or no if someone wants to do something. In this particular case, we have Laertes, who is the son of Polonius. Polonius is the advisor to Claudius. And Laertes is like, hey, new king, I want to go back to France because it's cooler there. I mean, I want to study music. It has nothing to do with the fact that I have an over controlling father and I hate Denmark. Yep, nothing to do with any of that. And Claudius is like, you talked to your dad? And Polonius goes, yeah, we talked about it. It's cool. Let him go. And Claudius is like, okay, well, your dad said yes, so I say yes. And Laertes is like, woohoo, France! I'm getting out of here. I mean, I'll miss you all so much. So then Claudius turns his attention to his nephew slash brand new stepson. And it's like, Hamlet, why are you sad? You should be happy. Dads die all the time. It's natural. Get over it. Plus, if something happens to me and your mom, you are the first person in line to be the new king of Denmark. Doesn't that sound fun? But don't get any ideas. And Gertrude's like, Hamlet, why do you want to leave me? And Hamlet's like, because I can't stand my new stepdad. I mean, I want to go to college. And his mom's all, but I need you because I'm dealing with a dead husband and a brand new husband and I need my son. And Hamlet is like, in case you people haven't noticed, I am super depressed. I've been dressing all in black. This is not a fashion statement, and this is only a little bit of what I'm feeling inside. What is wrong with all of you? My dad just died. You just married his brother like 2 months after your husband died, and nobody sees anything wrong with this. And, just feeling generally betrayed by all the members of his family since he doesn't have any siblings to complain about it with. It's like, listen, I just want to go back to England. I want to get away from all of you and go to school. Why is this so hard to understand? And Gertrude's like, but son, I need you. And Hamlet's like, okay, how do I say something along the lines of yes without actually saying yes? Light bulb. I will try to obey your wishes. In modern English, this means I am only attempting this because it makes you happy. We'll see what it actually turns into. And as we all know, Gertrude is going to regret her decision to force her son to stay home very soon. Claudius, on the other hand, is like, woohoo, let's go throw another party because Hamlet decided, with no outside pressure whatsoever, to stay home instead of going back to his friends. So Claudius and Gertrude leave Hamlet alone and they're going to plan a son staying home party. In other words, they just wanted an excuse to throw a party, but couldn't think of one so close to the funeral. So, sources of Hamlet's depression. Number one, his dad just died, otherwise known as King Hamlet. Number two, his mom remarried too fast. Even for the time period, 2 months after your husband drops dead is usually considered pretty fast. Would be more acceptable if they were poor, but since they're not, they have a different set of rules. Number three, everyone wants him to suck it up and get over it. And number four, stepdaddy uncle seems way too happy about his new job as the king. Dun dun dun. Alright, then we have Hamlet's soliloquy. So he has a monologue to the audience, which basically means that he's thinking aloud and assuming that no one else is around to hear it. Depending on the situation, that may or may not be true. So He says, I literally want to die. The only reason I'm not killing myself right this second is because the Bible says it's bad. And since I don't want to get punished for doing something really bad forever, I will suck it up and not do that right now. Plus, I'm sad about my dead dad. Why does no one understand that it's normal to be sad about this? And I'm also upset because my mom got married way too fast, and to all people, it was my frickin' uncle, who is the same relation to my father as I am to Hercules, which, in case you haven't figured out, means not at all alike. And he also curses his uncle slash stepdad slash the new king because, you know, not only is he ruining Hamlet's life with all of that stuff, but he just prevented his one chance at maybe getting away from all of this and not wanting to die immediately. So then Horatio and Marcellus interrupt and they're like, dude, we gotta talk to you right now. There's a freaking ghost outside. And you'll never believe it, it's your dead dad. It's like, dead dad is risen from the dead? Shouldn't he be somewhere resting in peace? Something is very wrong here. What on earth could it be? So, he makes Horatio and Marcellus go through all the details about the ghost. Number 1, it looks exactly like Dead King Hamlet. Number 2, it is armed and armored. It is ready for war. Number 3, it's frowning. They've seen that face on the dead king before when he was really angry. Number 4, super pale, so probably not makeup, since you can pretty much see through him. Number 5, they know for sure that his face is the same as he was in life because number 6, the visor on his helmet is lifted up so they can see him. All these details prove to Hamlet that something is wrong, or as they like to put it, something is rotten in Denmark. Hamlet decides to join Horatio and Marcellus on the night watch tonight. He plans to do a little ghost hunting of his own and maybe get some answers. Dun dun dun. And then we switch to Act 1, Scene 3, where we change our location to good old Polonius's house, which has to be near the castle, since he is the advisor to the king. So, here we get to meet Ophelia. Poor sweet Ophelia. And we already met Laertes. They are siblings. Polonius, who in the notes will be referred to as Polo, is their dad. We never found out what happened to their mom, but we're going to assume that she's dead because she never appears in this play. Laertes, as many older siblings tend to be, is a very protective older brother. Now, in this time period, that had a slightly different meaning than it does today. So the first thing he does is promise to write his sister from France about all the fun he's having that she can't because she's a woman. And then he's like, little sister, I gotta tell you something very important. Stay away from the prince. Hamlet is a prince. Means he cannot marry you. Doesn't matter what he says about how he feels. He will marry whoever the king says he has to marry. Probably some lady from an alliance with another country. Because, as lovely as Ophelia is, she is not a princess. Think, what happened in Aladdin with Jasmine not being able to marry Aladdin, but reverse the roles. Since she was a princess and he was not a prince. So he points out that, especially for this time period, Do not give in to lust. This is not the same as love. I don't care what he says. Do not do what Hamlet wants you to do. And Ophelia's like, oh yeah, bro? Why don't you practice what you preach? Stay away from women that you aren't gonna marry, huh? He's like, fine, I promise not to do stuff with women I'm not married to as long as you promise to stay away from Hamlet. And then good old Daddy Polonius comes in as Laertes is trying to leave. And he's like, oh, son, I have some stuff we need to talk about. I know that you're on a very close time limit, but you can suck it up and listen to these rules. Basically, it comes down to the following: keep your mouth shut. Don't do anything stupid. Be nice to other people. Don't trust new friends. Don't get in a fight if you can avoid it. Dress nice, but don't look rich. Don't borrow money. Don't loan money. And on top of all that, try to be yourself. Yes, because all that very easily comes to just being yourself. And after that, Polonius comes back. He's like, so, Ophelia, what were you and your brother talking about? And she's like, oh, I was talking about the fact that I'm in love with Prince Hamlet. And her dad follows up with the exact same thing. Laertes says, stay away from Hamlet. Boys want only one thing. Don't give it to him. Stay away. Break up with him. Avoid, avoid, avoid. Bad, bad, bad. Hamlet, bad. Stay away. And Ophelia's all sad about it. She's like, well, since this is a crappy time period to be a woman, I guess I have to listen to you and break up with my super hot rich boyfriend. So I will tell Hamlet that I won't see him anymore and actually mean it. Oops. Moves on to Act 1, Scene 4. So, for our setting, we are back freezing our butts off on the platform of Elsinore Castle. Prince Hamlet, known as Ham, Horatio, Ho, and Marcellus, Ma, are all freezing together on the night watch waiting for the ghost. And waiting, and waiting, and waiting. And then, down, down. I'm not going to do that 12 times, but just imagine a bell going off 12 times. Down. It's now 12 a.m., otherwise known as midnight. And the ghost reappears. And Hamlet's like, hey, ghost that looks suspiciously like my dad, what are you doing here? And the ghost doesn't say anything. It's just like motioning with its hands, like, come to me, son. If you want answers, you're going to follow the creepy ghost off into the fog. And Hamlet's like, okay, well, I want answers, so I have to follow the creepy ghost. And I need to find out if it's really my dad or if we're all just nuts. And Horatio and Marcellus are like, dude, are you insane? Our job is to protect you. If something happens to you, we are literally dead. And Hamlet's like, screw you both. I'm the prince, you're the guards, and the prince says, you leave me alone and do what I want. I'm going to follow the ghost, and that means I'm going to follow the ghost. So Horatio and Marcellus look at each other and basically pull a Three Stooges act for a minute, and they're like, crap. If something happens to him, we are literally dead men. We better follow him. Act 1, Scene 5. A different platform on the Elsinore Castle. Hamlet is no longer freezing because he's too busy freaking out. So we have Prince Hamlet, known as Ham, Horatio, Ho, Marcellus, Ma, King Claudius, KC, and King Hamlet, KH. So Hamlet, the young one, is finally alone with the ghost. And the spirit is finally ready to talk. It turns out that a spirit and a person are not the same thing. And it points out, it's like, look, I am the spirit of King Hamlet. I am not actually King Hamlet. I am just part of him. I don't have emotional attachments. So everything that I'm about to say is focused on one thing only, and that is revenge. And Hamlet's freaking out, and the ghost is like, yeah, look, I'm in purgatory. It really sucks because I can't get into heaven or hell. I'm in extreme pain because my soul is getting all the bad stuff that I did over my lifetime burned out of it at every second of the day. And eventually, when this passes, maybe I'll get to go to heaven. I hope I get to go to heaven. And Hamlet's like, oh, poor dad ghost. I'm so sad for you. You're burning all the time and I can't help you. And then the ghost dad's like, that's where you're wrong, not dead, son. It drops the ultimate bombshell. Everyone thinks that Iron Death was natural, but it was murder! Weird and unnatural death. My stupid brother Claudius told everyone that I was bitten by a snake, and that's a big fat bunch of lies. As a matter of fact, the ghost really hates Claudius and Gertrude, known as his ex-wife since, he's dead, and thinks that she betrayed him by marrying his snake of a brother. It's like, listen, the truth is Claudius poured some frickin' poison into my ear when I was taking my daily nap outside. Claudius cut my life off, which is why I'm burning and in this horrible pain because I have no way of redeeming myself. And like, oh yeah, and your mom, don't worry about her. God will punish her for whatever. What I want you to do now is kill Claudius. Kill your uncle, kill your uncle, kill your uncle. It will make everything better for me. And he'll be dead, which makes me laugh. And maybe, it'll stop some of this horrible burning purgatory stuff. But, the main priority here is kill your uncle, kill your uncle, kill your uncle. So Hamlet monologues for a bit and is like, well, my life sucks more than it did before. I'm even more upset than I was earlier, but now I have revenge! And Horatio and Marcellus finally show up, and they're like, we finally found you. Thank God you're alive. So happy to see you. And Hamlet's like, listen, I need y'all to pretend this never happened, but the ghost talked to me, and it's making me think about the definitions of what is really evil and all that. And by the way, the two of you need to swear that you're not going to mention any of this to anybody. And they're like, I don't know if we can do that because you seem to be acting a little odd there, Prince. And the ghost screams at him from underground, swear! And they're like, okay, whatever the creepy ghost says, we're gonna do that. Yeah, ghost, team ghost. And Hamlet's like, good. We're gonna go inside and pretend that everything's normal. Yes, normal. Not plotting murder at all. Just normal teenage college stuff. That brings us to Act 2, Scene 1. Back at old Polonius's house. So we have a scene between Polonius, otherwise known as Polo, and Ronaldo, Ray. So Polonius is the master of the house, and Ronaldo is a servant. Polonius, basically, wants Ronaldo to spy on Laertes in France. So he needs to find out, is Laertes misusing funds? Basically, is he going through money like it's water? Is he actually studying music, or is he studying music? Is he gambling? Is he messing around with women? Is he being stupid and acting his age in general? So, Ronaldo's new job. Step 1. Locate the Danish people living in France. Step 2. Subtly, meaning, don't whack them over the head with a brick, ask questions about Laertes, mostly the things up here. But put it this way, be like, hey, I heard there's this guy named Laertes around here somewhere. Is it the same one that I'm thinking of? Because the one that I knew was always sleeping around with women and gambling and losing all his money and getting into fights. Is that the same Laertes? And they'll be like, nah, we hope. Step 3. After doing that, find Laertes and just spy on him every day until he leaves France. Step 4. Don't get caught. Because, Laertes be a little upset that his dad don't trust him. Then we switch over to Ophelia and Polonius, and Polonius is like, hey, Hamlet's gone a bit crazy. Is it because you broke up with him? He's completely forgetting that it's his own dang fault because he blames her for following his orders, which were no contact with the prince at all. And Ophelia's like, but daddy, Hamlet grabbed me out of nowhere. His clothes are all messed up and his shirt was torn open and he's just staring at me like a crazy person. And Polonius is like, he's gone crazy from lack of love. We need to tell the king about this. Act 2, Scene 2. Setting. Yet another room in Elsinore Castle featuring King Claudius, Casey, Queen Gertrude, QG, Polonius, Polo, Rosencrantz, Rose, Guildenstern, Guild, Voltimand, Bolt, and Cornelius, Corn. So Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are Hamlet's old friends. Turns out they grew up together and then they went to college together in England, where Hamlet is supposed to be, because if he was there, he wouldn't be seeing murder ghosts, now would he? Gertrude and Claudius are like, hey, old friends of our son/stepson, Hamlet needs some help. He could really use friends right now because he's still sad and stuff about his dead dad. And Polonius comes in, he's like, King, I need to see you alone. Meanwhile, Voltiman and Cornelius burst in. They're like, we have important news from Norway. The king says that there is no planned attack with the Norwegian army. And Claudius is like, ha! I knew it. I was right. Ha ha ha. And Polonius is like, listen, I really think that you need to listen to me because the prince has gone crazy. And then after getting their attention with that, he's like, good news. I know what the problem is. Hamlet's just gone crazy in love. So he shares a very private letter that Hamlet wrote to Ophelia, which, was only meant to be seen by those two people. And Polonius is like, look, I already explained to Ophelia that she can't marry the prince, so she's cool with it. But something seems to be wrong on his end, like he got some wires crossed or something. So what we need to do is set up a trap. We're going to observe Hamlet and Ophelia together in what they think is a private setting. But before that can happen, Polonius actually runs into Hamlet wandering around alone. And he tries to interact with him, and Hamlet responds like a crazy person. Something about Polonius being a fishmonger and honest men, and then something about daughters, which he takes to mean a reference to Ophelia. And then Hamlet claims that his book says something about men being old and worthless. and describes Polonius and makes him very insecure. And then that gets interrupted by his good old friends Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. He's so happy to see his old buddies with no ulterior motives whatsoever, just here to visit. And Polonius is like, oh, thank God, an interruption. And they're like, and Hamlet's like, so, good buddies, what's with the spontaneous visit? Did you come to see me? Or were you summoned? And they're like, oh, ha ha ha, we love you, Hamlet. You're so funny. And then they're like, no, seriously, dude, for a depressed person, you seem really happy. This is not at all what we were expecting. And they're like, well, when we thought you were depressed, we brought these players, otherwise known as actors, because we know how much you love the theater and we thought this would cheer you right up. So Hamlet plays another let's tick off Polonius game and starts speaking in quotes. Polonius doesn't understand what's happening, but the actors do. Hamlet is testing their knowledge, so they just go along with it. And he sends most of them away to rest. But then he says, hey, wait, I want to talk to you. So he gets one of them alone. He's like, do you all have the murder of Gonzago? And the actor's like, oh yeah, we do that all the time. Hamlet's like, perfect. The play's the thing. So Hamlet is struggling with what the ghost wants because he's like, my dead dad told me that I need to murder my very much alive uncle. But can I really do that? I don't have any actual proof. I just have a hallucination that's telling me that my uncle is evil. How do I get proof? But the plot of the murder of Gonzago is similar to what the ghost is claiming happened. So he plans to watch Claudius, especially after making a little addition to the script. And he's thinking, if Claudius gets upset by the play, it's time to seek revenge. And if he doesn't get upset, well, he's not guilty and I don't murder him and I don't get punished by God. Yay! All's good. So that brings us to the end of Acts 1 and 2. Make sure that you submit your notes, your version of this. I recommend getting at least everything that you see on this screen here. Since I shared it in video format, I will not be sharing it in doc format, which means that you will actually have to type them out. Isn't that nice? See you guys in the morning. Bye-bye.